Hey y'all, my name is Priscilla and welcome back to my channel, Bookie Charm. For today's video, we're going to be doing the Cemetery Boys book tag. So I was tagged to do this by Adri over at Perpetual Pages, so thank you so much for tagging me. Of course it was Adri. I mean, at this point, anything associated with Cemetery Boys, I immediately think of Adri anyway. But it was created by a number of creators, so I'll make sure to just leave all that information in the description box below. It's a really great tag of really universal kind of questions that could fit almost any reader, because it's a good way just to talk about well, you'll see in the questions. You can just gush about books. And I actually recently finished reading Cemetery Boys for the Fortnite Frights readathon this past week and really enjoyed it. And I'm really excited to bring you this tag inspired by it. So let's just go ahead and get into those questions. So the first question is, of course, about YADRIEL. And for this prompt, we're supposed to talk about an underhyped book that exceeded your expectations. For this question, I think I'm going to have to go with Untamed by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and this book was actually released this year. The 2020 seems endless, but it was released earlier in February, and it's her first thriller. And I'm mentioning this book because I think it's underhyped in terms of what she's come out with recently. I mean, obviously Mexican Gothic came out this fall, and I feel like this has kind of overshadowed Untamed. So I'm just reminding you that Untamed also came out this year, and it's really good. So Untamed is Silvia Moreno-Garcia's first thriller. It's noir and gritty in tone, and it follows a woman, a young girl named Villavicencio, who is a translator in her small town in Baja California in the 1970s, and she lives in a shark fishing town and feels very trapped. She feels very limited in her opportunities, and she wants to get out, but she doesn't know how. And it's about her spending the summer with these three wealthy white people that come to live in the town, and how they interact, and how they are kind of sharks, and she's kind of thrown into the waters with these people, and how she might become a shark herself. So I've said many times before, like, thrillers are just not my thing. I don't like feeling like that fear, that scare that slowly builds throughout, but suspense like this that really gets under your skin might be my thing, because I really enjoyed this book, and I don't really know why. I haven't been able to pinpoint what exactly it is yet. It's a really good book, and it's really atmospheric, just like all of her other books. She does a really great job of doing character studies in a really atmospheric setting. That's all there. It's also inspired by classic Mexican film, and it's about a nun who professes her sins, and in this story the main character also professes her sins to a recorder. So little nods like that was really interesting. So it made me want to watch classic Mexican films, and I think that you should give it a shot. It's definitely worthwhile. Next question is for Julian, and this is a book that doesn't stick to one genre. For this question, I think I'm gonna go with a recent nonfiction, and I'm gonna go with The Undocumented Americans, written by Karla, Cornejo, Villavicencio. It could be described as a memoir or an essay collection, but it's the type of creative nonfiction that I just really love. So I want to talk about it. So I'm squeezing it into this question regardless. Villavicencio in the very beginning of this book says that you may not like this book. It's probably not for you. She definitely doesn't talk about any of the dreamers. She's not trying to inspire anyone. She's just telling stories that she has investigated on her own from other immigrants like herself. And it follows immigrants within different cities, from Miami to Connecticut to Flint, Michigan, and it is heartbreaking. But I really liked that she took that firm stance in the very beginning, because she understands that she has leverage a bit with these other folks that she's interviewing, because they trust her and she would never betray their trust, and she feels like a bit protective of them. So I really like that she takes that stance, because there's no way that she could tell any of their stories without being biased. And although this book is less than 200 pages, it just really hits you, and it's so well written. Every word, every sentence is purposeful and haunting and gorgeous, and her writing is something you should definitely look into, and is why I think it's not necessarily one genre. It's not necessarily like essay collections. It's not necessarily a memoir. And it's definitely not investigative journalism, because she definitely takes creative liberties. I think that because of that, it makes it a bit of a genre bender in terms of nonfiction. So yeah, The Undocumented Americans, if you haven't heard, I think has already been nominated for a National Book Award, and I think it's a masterpiece in nonfiction. So definitely a really, really good book. So the next question is, of course, for MARITZA, and it's to talk about a book that helped you get through a tough time. And I think collectively we can all agree that 2020 is just a tough time. So I'm going to talk about a book that I think is the perfect balm for this year. And I'm definitely going to go with Meteor, which is written by two authors, Tehlor Mejia and Anna Marie McLemore. And they're both Latinx authors that I've read from in the past. And this book is so Latinx, and I don't know, it just feels like home reading it, and it's so hopeful, and it's just that kind of YA contemporary that's just such a feel-good kind of book that I loved and ate up. And I knew within the first chapter or two that this book was going to be a 5-star read for me. So this book follows two main characters, first being Lita Pérez and the other being Chiqui Quintanilla. And they were best friends before, but they've kind of been estranged since, and it's a coming of age of them coming back together and trying to win Miss Meteor, who is this like beauty pageant in their small town that hasn't been won by anyone that looks like Lita, who is obviously very brown, who is not a size 0, and who really wants to win. It's also a very queer story, and it's got like one of the most beautiful on-page pansexual mentions that I don't think I've ever seen. So that, along with the Selena-inspired diner, were enough for me to give it 5 stars, honestly. There's also a really beautiful discussion of immigration and xenophobia with Lita, who is literally made of stardust and who is an alien, and that metaphor for being undocumented, being an alien, being unwanted is explored, and I really, really love those moments as well. So there's a lot in this book there is to love. So recently I watched a panel with both of these authors at the Texas Book Festival, which is a virtual event online this year. And they were talking about why they continue to write YA and why adults keep coming back to YA. And they spoke about how it's because we haven't had books like this that speak to us when we were at the age, the YA audience kind of age demographic, and how we continue to heal and kind of work through those wounds that we've had in the past. And I definitely feel a bit healed after reading it. So yeah, Miss Meteor, a balm to the year 2020. So the next question is for QUINCES, and it's your favorite coming of age story. I think that Elizabeth Acevedo has some of the best coming of age stories, and I could name any of them because all 3 that I've read have been really good. So I'm gonna go with the one that I've read most recently. So that's Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This came out this year. I believe it came out this summer, actually, just this summer. And it follows 2 sisters that don't know about each other at the beginning of the book, but find out about each other because their father passes away on a plane crash. And one of them is Dominican American living in New York City, while the other is Dominican from the island. And it's a story about forgiveness and healing and coming to love yourself and finding out, connecting to your family and to your homeland. Yeah, it's another book that is written in verse. I actually listened to it first on audio, so it's of course performed really well in the audiobook because Acevedo performs one of the characters and another poet performs the other. So yeah, Clap When You Land, really good coming of age story. So the next question is Dia de Muertos, and it's a backlist book you wish you could bring back and hype back up again. So I'm going to be using backlist as a definition for a book that wasn't written the past 2 years, because I think backlist, I don't know how old does a book have to be backlist, but I've read a lot of new releases this year. So a book that was not released this year is What It Means When a Man Falls from the Sky, written by Lesley, Nneka, Arimah. This is a short story collection from a Nigerian author, and most of these stories take place in Nigeria, but this is one of the strongest short story collections I've ever read. Certainly since I've started BookTube, it's one of the best story collections. And this titular story, What It Means When a Man Falls from the Sky, is such a masterpiece in speculative fiction. They've actually been able to decode an equation that explains everything in life. And because people that fly have been able to fly are now falling, that this equation may be flawed. And it follows a mathematician who has to decode this and who's grappling with this. And it's just so good. A lot of the stories in here are different. They're not connected at all. and they're just fantastical in really strange ways. And I reviewed this book previously on my channel, so I'll make sure to link that video above, because I'm probably doing a really bad job of reviewing it right now. But this book, really, really, really strong short stories. The next question is Pan de Muerto, and it's a story you wish you could give or offer your loved ones. I really love this question. That's such a cool question. And for this, I'm going to go with another beloved middle grade. I'm going to go with The First Rule of Punk by Celia Pérez. And this is a middle grade coming of age story about Malu in the cover here, who is Mexican American. She's actually biracial. Her mother is Mexican, her father is white. And she's always loved punk music and adored her dad, and doesn't understand that you can be Mexican and love punk music at the same time. So it's this discussion of duality and identity, and she kind of goes through this identity crisis as a young 12-year-old. And I think that message is something that I would love to give to my loved ones. I would love to give to a younger version of myself. And because I definitely dealt with those identity crises as a young Mexican-American girl growing up. Yeah, I love it so much. And I have to shout out Andrea over at Book Ramble for putting this on my radar, because if she had not talked about this book, I never would have read it. And I'm so glad that I picked it up and loved it. It's also a really cool book because it's got like zines in it, and that tell the history of like Mexican Americans. So I think that that's really cool too. So yeah, another really good reason to pick up The First Rule of Punk. The next question is Tether, a book you feel most connected to. I don't think I even need to say it. Like at this point, we all know, right? Love Sugar Magic series by Meriano. Yeah, this book series, I feel so connected to, and I've talked about it so many times, and I need to reread them and review them. Because I would like to just be able to point out that video whenever questions like this come up, because it's going to be these books every time. Like it just is. The next question is Portaje, and it's a book that was passed on to you. So I'm going to go kind of literal with this question, and it's an actual book that a friend lent to me that I still have in my possession. And she let me have Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, which is a memoir about a South African comedian. I'm pretty sure most people know who Trevor Noah is at this point, but it's a book about his being born literally a crime, because in South Africa at the time, his father is from Switzerland, his mother is African, and it was illegal to do that. It just wasn't allowed. And each chapter kind of opens with legislation, like law, like a history lesson, and then he talks about his life growing up in South Africa, and it's really funny. It's really good. I remember it being very good, and I remember this is one of the few books that I actually like LOL'd while reading, because it's really funny. There's some funny moments in here. So Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. The next question is Wet Binder, name a book you're stuck on. Again, this will be a no-brainer because I talk about this series all the time, and it's the Parable of the Sower, Earthsea duology, particularly Parable of the Sower, which is the first in this series. And it's a story that I'm stuck on because it's very prophetic. It's a dystopian about a girl that has like these empathy powers, but moreover, it's a story about this girl that is creating and crafting her own religion because the world that we live in sucks. The world is on fire. There's actually a disease, and there's a tyrannical president, and it hits so close to home. And I'm listening to this podcast right now where they read a chapter each episode and they talk through it, and of course it's giving a context. It's being filmed now, so it's got like the context of 2020 in there too, and how you survive the end of the world. It's a story I'm definitely stuck on, that I think about all the time, that was written in the 90s, and I think we're actually coming up to the first year this book takes place. I think it starts in 2024. Really scary. And I'm definitely stuck on it because I definitely think about it all the time. And the next question is PURRCASO, which is name a soft book you really love. I'm gonna go with a picture book, one of my favorites, Alma y Cómo Obtuvo Su Nombre by Juana Martinez-Neal. And I love this book so much. It is so soft, like even the drawings are soft. So it's like the perfect book to pick for this question, because it's all about a young girl that doesn't know why she has like so many names, which is a very like Latinx thing to just add on all your names. And it's a story that is so heartwarming because she talks about like how she's given those names. Father ends up telling her exactly why She's named after so many people. It's one of my favorite illustration styles, and I am so glad that stories like this exist for kids that maybe might be teased for what they're named after or don't understand their family histories and might actually seek them out for themselves. So I love Alma. This is the Spanish translation. Of course, there is an English translation as well. And this is one of the softest, best books that I own. Okay, and those are all the questions for the Cemetery Boys book tag. So this tag is so good. Like, honestly, even if you haven't read Cemetery Boys, you should do it if you want to gush about some books. And of course, go read Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. It's a really great YA, own voices, Latinx queer fantasy that features a trans main character. And it's all about YADRIEL's journey to acceptance within his very traditional Latinx family. And I loved it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. And he brings back the ghost of a bad boy named Julian, and they might fall in love. Who knows? I'm not going to be tagging anyone because just about everyone that I would tag, Adri has already tagged. So maybe just this is a reminder. If you haven't done it yet, you should definitely do it because this book takes place leading up to Dia de Muertos. That is today, but it's also like a really good like fall book. So yeah, it's still good to do this tag. And of course, all the questions are applicable to just about any reader. If you just want to gush about books, it's a really good tag to do as well. So yeah, that's Cemetery Boys book tag. So if you've made it so far in this video, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, and I hope that you do something special for election night coming up on November 3rd, because that is going to be a shit show. I'm going to be eating cookies. What are you going to be doing for election night if you're in the US? But yeah, that's all I have for this video today. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye.